Thank you very much. I want to thank you all for being here and supporting this extraordinary organization. I thank you for that really warm welcome. It's good to be back here. So all of you know, I've been here a few times, in different capacities, serving the people of the state. Came here first as the United States Attorney, talk about the challenges our state faced from a law enforcement perspective, and then here as a candidate for governor. So I'm thrilled to be back. I thank John and everyone here at Commerce and Industry for inviting me again. And I'm happy to have a chance to talk to you about where New Jersey is today, which is significantly different than where we found it when we last got together a few years ago. The economic success that we're starting to see now in New Jersey is due in large part to the support of those of you in this room. Commerce and Industry Association membership, your belief in New Jersey, your leadership, and your faith and support in this administration has led to us having the ability to be able to undo years of mismanagement and poor fiscal policies, begin to restore New Jersey's economic vitality and create meaningful and sustainable jobs. Clearly, our economic development and creating good-paying private sector jobs in the state is the top priority of this administration. But, you know, everyone can talk about that. What you need to actually do it is a lot more difficult to achieve in the current political climate. And let's talk specifically about the stuff that we have achieved, and let's talk a little bit more about how we did it and how we're going to continue to build upon it as we move forward over the next number of years. Now, this past year, we passed $185 million in targeted job-creating tax cuts for small business in the state, including tax policy changes that many in the business community have been clamoring for and trending for 20 years, and I think a number of which you never thought you'd ever see happen because of your support and your strong voices and the support of our administration. We were able to make it happen. And those changes that began to be instituted this year, at the end of a 5-year period, will amount to about $2.35 billion in business tax cuts in New Jersey, money that you can spend much better than we would have ever spent it, and I'm really happy to give it back to you. Now we can get really specific, okay? Net operating loss carry forward, relief as well as reduction in the tax rate on S-corps, moving to a single factor sales tax and increasing the R&D tax credit are all long overdue changes that will provide relief to businesses of all sizes, small and large and in between, here in New Jersey. What we're doing is we're creating opportunity for the people of our state and certainty for the businesses of our state that has been missing for years. And you know, it's probably not accurate to say that last part. You know, the first part, opportunity that's been missing for the citizens of our state for years is absolutely, indisputably true. Creating certainty for the businesses of our state for the first time is not really true. You did have certainty for the past decade. You knew government would get bigger, taxes would go higher, and you would be treated by disrespect by your government. Now, that's not the kind of certainty that usually brings people flocking to a state to build their business or keeps them here to grow their business. See, the certainty I'm talking about is much, much different. The certainty I'm talking about is to now understand, first and foremost, that your government sees you as our customers. We see you as the people who give us the revenue to permit us to exist in the first place. And the best place to show the change that has occurred in that attitude, believe it or not, is the Department of Environmental Protection. And usually, when I say the phrase Department of Environmental Protection in front of a business group, it leads to booing and a stampede to the door. But in this administration, things have really changed over the last 21 months. First of all, we have a commissioner. We have a commissioner, Bob Martin, who comes from the business world. And who, while he is an active steward of our environment, he also understands that being an active steward of your environment does not mean preventing business and job growth in New Jersey. It does not mean rudeness and inattention and delay are the watchwords of his department. In fact, imagine this. In the last 21 months now, every employee in the State Department of Environmental Protection has gone through mandatory customer service training. And while we've made the government smaller, for those who remain, we've reminded them that that is job one, is to answer that telephone and to get you an answer. Now, the answer's not always going to be yes, and I don't think that you always believe it should be yes. But you need to get an answer promptly. So if you have to change your plans, reconfigure your business operations, that you can do so without the ongoing aggravation of delay and the expense that goes with it, hiring lawyer after lawyer, lobbyist after lobbyist, engineer and consultant after engineer and consultant. This, with all due respect to all those different categories of folks, is a waste of money that could otherwise be put towards building jobs for regular citizens in New Jersey. We're not going to stand for that any longer, not in this administration. And we're seeing the results of these changes already in real investment on the ground. Companies like Panasonic, who have now determined to relocate and expand their North American headquarters here in New Jersey. BASF will now expand their corporate headquarters, the North American headquarters here in New Jersey. Church & Dwight will now expand their corporate presence in New Jersey. Coca-Cola is expanding their presence here in New Jersey. And Bayer. They're all deciding to make an investment in our state. Think about what was going on before we got here. In the year before I became governor, 116,000 private sector jobs lost in 2009. In the 21 months since this administration has been in place, 45,000 new private sector jobs created in New Jersey. The New Jersey comeback has begun, ladies and gentlemen. And I think there's one story that's particularly instructive to this administration's approach to dealing forthrightly and aggressively with business and trying to get you all to stay here, grow and expand here. In my first week in office, January of 2010, I received a phone call from Dave Cody, the Chief Executive Officer of Honeywell. As you know, Honeywell has had a long-time presence having its international corporate headquarters in Morris County, New Jersey. He called to welcome me to office and then told me they were leaving. And I said to him, well, listen, you signed anything yet? And he said, no, but we're leaving, Governor. And I said, well, listen, come see me. Come and visit. Let's talk. He said to me, no, listen, Governor, we've made up our minds. And he said, it's not your fault. You just got here. He said, for a year we've been trying to get the attention of the administration in Trenton. For a year we tried to have a meeting with the governor. We couldn't have one. For a year we've been trying to get the attention of the governor's staff. We don't even get our phone calls returned. I don't think New Jersey's interested in keeping Honeywell anymore. And I'm sorry it has to happen on your watch, but that's the way it's going to go. I said, just come and see me next week. And don't sign anything until you get here. And he said, fine. So he came. He brought his general counsel, another member of his executive staff. And with the lieutenant governor, we met and discussed Honeywell's plans for the future. And I said to him, Dave, tell me exactly what this other state is offering you. He said, Governor, let's not go into this because I've been here for a long time. You're never going to be able to do what these folks have done. And so let's just have a cordial relationship moving forward and not put ourselves through this. I said, no, Dave, I want to know exactly what this other state is offering you. So he went through it with me. He and his general counsel went through it with me. And when they got done, I said to him, all right, give me 7 days to match it. If I can match it in 7 days, will you stay? And he gave me this kind of half smile, as if he saw an opportunity to give away snow in winter. And he said, sure, Governor. If you match it in 7 days, I'll stay. Great. Well, thanks for coming in. I stood up, we shook hands. He later on told me that as he was walking out of the governor's office, he turned to his general counsel and said, poor bastard, he has absolutely no idea what's going on. So me and the lieutenant governor and Karen Franzini at EPA went to work. And 6 days later, I called Dave Cody, and I said, all right, you're going to get an email from the lieutenant governor in a couple of moments, putting in writing that we will match everything that this other state is doing. So I've been a man of my word 1 day early. Are you going to be a man of yours? There's about a 3-second pause on the other end of the phone, and he said, you bet, we're staying. And that's where this administration approaches these guys. And not only are they staying, but they've made a commitment to expand their presence on their campus in Morris Township, creating construction jobs for the new buildings they're going to build, and creating new, additional, high-paying, executive-level, private sector jobs at Honeywell for the citizens of our state who need those jobs so desperately. You see, in the end, this job is not very complicated. Thank God. Because, I never suffer from the malady of having to be the smartest guy in the room, and it's a relief for all of you that I don't. Because it would be a pretty dumb government if I were the smartest guy in the room. What I try to surround myself with are the best people who are much smarter than I am, but who understand. It's a very simple truth. This is a human relations business. If people's phone calls are ignored, if people don't get answers from their government, if they feel as if they're being run around the clock, at the same time that we have our hands deeply in their pockets fleecing them, we should not spend much time wondering why we lost 116,000 private sector jobs in 1 year. Did the national economy contribute? Of course it did. Something worse was happening here in New Jersey. Our unemployment rate was higher than the national average. We were ranked 50th in business tax climate in America when I took office, and we were ranked 50th in business friendliness. They see this is the perfect job for me. Because, unless they admit Puerto Rico to the Union, I can't do worse. I'd love to go far. And so we began to move, and we started to move up. Now, last year we moved from 50th to 49th. Now, we're not taking that out in the Wall Street Journal. Hey, we're number 49. Come to New Jersey. But we're moving in the right direction. We're moving moving in the right direction. We're not standing still. We're moving forward. We're getting better. And you can feel it. You can feel it in our state. You know, whether it's any of you having reached out to Lieutenant Governor's Business Action Center, which has received tens of thousands of inquiries already in our term and resolved many difficult permitting and business-related issues for small and large businesses across New Jersey, or whether it's interaction with our Economic Development Authority, which is being led by Al Coppi and Karen Franzini, who are doing an extraordinary job investing in the businesses of our state so they can invest in the people of our state. Or whether it's an interaction with departments that are now led by folks who understand how to run businesses, folks like Bob Martin at the DEP and Jim Simpson at the Department of Transportation. Those major permitting organizations that often are the ones who stand in the way of your business development. You now have two businessmen in charge of those departments who understand what it's like to be on the receiving end of that frustration and don't want to see the same thing happening to the people in this state. So, what are the other indicators that we see of New Jersey's resurgence beginning? Well, last month it was reported that the revenue earned by New Jerseyans reached a new high. Revenue is increasing for New Jerseyans, which means revenue will be increasing for government as well. And so this is good news. And I think one of the most important indicators is what's happening with the attitude of the people of New Jersey as compared to their compatriots in most of the other 50 states. They've seen yesterday or the day before a story on the front page of the New York Times reporting on a poll they did with CBS, and one of the typical questions they always ask, which was reported prominently in the story, was asking the American people, do you believe our country is moving in the right direction? Or do you think it's off on the wrong track? Well, the results of that poll were that 21% of Americans believe our country is moving in the right direction, and 74% believe we're off on the wrong track. Contrast that with New Jersey and the poll that came out the day before from Fairleigh Dickinson University. They asked New Jerseyans the same question about their state. Do you think your state's moving in the right direction, or do you believe it's off on the wrong track? New Jersey has not answered that question positively. Since the month before Governor McGreevey announced his resignation in the summer of 2004. Think about that. Nearly 7.5 years since New Jerseyans in any public poll have said they thought their state was moving in the right direction. Well, that streak ended this week. 46% of New Jerseyans say we're going in the right direction, only 43% in the wrong track. There's optimism in New Jersey again. All that is good progress, and we're happy about it, but we realize that it is just the beginning. And when that statistic, that poll result came out this week, I called my senior staff together in my office and said to them that this is the moment when administrations make the biggest mistake they can possibly make. They become self-congratulatory and self-satisfied. And that is not what will happen in an administration that's run by me. What I challenged all my senior staff was with this simple phrase. We dug out of the hole, congratulations, now we got to build. It's not good enough just to say we dug out of the hole and now we're almost at ground level. No one is going to throw a party for us for being at ground level. That's not what New Jersey's history is. New Jersey needs to now soar. We now need to grow. We now need to provide those great jobs for our citizens. We now need to create and build upon this atmosphere of burgeoning optimism to make everybody believe once again that this is a state where not only you can grow and expand the business and create jobs, but that you would want to do that. Because you have a government who wants to be your partner, because you have a well-trained and well-educated workforce, and because you have some of the best markets in the world, right here within a very, very small radius of where we sit. Those are the factors that always made New Jersey great, and those are the factors that will make New Jersey great again, as long as we don't become one of the two extremes. Self-interested and self-satisfied, or remaining cynical and negative. Listen, your government has given you a lot at the state level to be cynical and negative about over the last decade. We've consistently had leaders who had no idea how to lead, had no idea what direction they wanted to take the state in, and merely lurched from lost opportunity to lost opportunity, trying to be loved by everyone, and saying yes to everything that was brought to their plate, whether it was a good idea or a lousy one. This administration takes a much different approach. We take the approach that was recommended to me by my mother years and years ago. My mother said to me, Chris, if you have the choice between being loved and being respected, always take respected. Because if you're truly respected, love can come from that. But love without respect will almost certainly go away. Now, of course, she was talking about women. But I think it applies equally to politics. Equally to politics. We have had too many people in the chair that I now occupy who cared much more about being loved than being respected. And what happens in government if you have someone in that chair who cares more about being loved than being respected is that they give away the story. And the story they give away is yours in order for temporary and fleeting affection. The other reason why this happens is because earning respect is hard. And sometimes you have to do things that really get people angry. Sometimes you actually have to do this. You have to look people in the eye and say, no. No. Politicians are not trained very well to do this. We are trained from the time we get into the business that the right answer is yes. Yes. You want a new program? Yes. You want me to help you in your neighborhood? Yes. You want me to give you more of fill in the blank? Yes. That smile comes back and man, you feel all warm and good. Until the bill comes. And then when the bill comes, something happens that also is analogous to something that my mom told me when I was a kid. My mom and dad were both working class folks, and we didn't have a lot of money growing up. And whenever I'd want something new, I'd hear from a friend that got something new, or I saw something on TV I want, go to my mother and say, Mama, I like this. And she'd say to me, yeah, sure, you can have that. Hey, great. Good. I said, wait, what can I get her? She goes, all right. Just go out to the backyard and pick the money off the money tree. When you get enough money off the money tree, come back inside and we'll go buy that thing for you. Here, I say, Mom, there's no money tree in the backyard. And she'll even say, exactly. The problem is, with all this yes that we were saying in government, then the bill would come due, then we'd be looking for the money tree. But unlike my unsuccessful attempts to find it in my backyard in Livingston, we found it in Trenton. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it right here. Money trees everywhere. And that's the way your government treated you. That every time they had an idea, a good one or a bad one, that they said yes to some special interest group for, and the bill came, they stuck their hand in your pocket and pulled the money out, and then went and took a bow for doing it. In fact, in the 8 years before I became governor, we raised taxes and fees at the state level in New Jersey 116 times. 116 times. They did a profile on me in New York Magazine. Now, this is always dangerous for a Republican to have a profile done in New York Magazine. But they said they were going to do it whether we cooperated or not, so we figured we'd cooperate. And then when the story came out, it actually wasn't that bad, but the headline of the story is the thing that I like the most. The headline of the story is, the answer is no. Now, my staff, being the wise asses that they are, Xeroxed this page, blew it up, and hung it on the inside of every one of their doors in the State House, in the governor's suite. This is absolutely true. The senator came later in every one of those offices. And when the door closes, and the lobbyist or the special interest group is asking for something, they point behind them and say, look at the door. It's not us, it's the boss. That's the way it goes. It's not always fun to say no. Some people think I like it more than I should, but it's not always fun to say no, and it's not always easy to say no, and sometimes it's really, really hard to say no. But because we said no consistently to expanding the size of government over the last 2 years, because we said no to raising taxes on all of you for the last 2 years, because we said no to the previous administration's style of ignoring and obfuscating and degrading business in this state, because we said no to those things, New Jersey is having a resurgence. See, we can only say yes again once we said no long enough that we get our fiscal house in order, that we become a competitive state from a tax perspective, that we cut back on the endless regulation that acts like a wet blanket over business and our entire economy, and that we say yes to making government smaller. And in this respect, this administration has said yes. And over the last 21 months, according to USA Today, no state in America has shed more private public sector jobs by percentage than the state of New Jersey. We promised you 2 years ago we would make government smaller, and we're doing it every day at every level of government by one simple word: no. No. So now we can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. Our national problems are still significant and will always have an effect on New Jersey. And I only wish that the leadership in Washington, D.C., both in the White House and in Congress, would really look at what's happening here in two respects. One, and most importantly, that we are imposing fiscal discipline. That we've been doing it now for 2 years with an overall cut in the budget of over 9%, not a projected growth, but from baseline when I walked in the door. Well, I don't know, I woke up this morning and the sun was up. And it's going to set tonight and it'll come up again tomorrow. And while some of these cuts have been difficult, none of them have ruined the fabric of our state as our adversaries predicted when we took these steps. So first, we have to continue to show Washington, D.C. that fiscal discipline is in fact possible and that people appreciate when you keep your word and do the difficult things. Second, we're showing Washington, D.C. that divided government can work. Now, listen, if I got to write down my perfect scenario, believe me, it wouldn't be that I had a Democratic legislature in Trenton. That will not be on my Christmas wish list. However, that is the situation in which I found myself in January 2010. And I had a great boss at the Justice Department during part of my service there, named Jim Comey, who was the Deputy Attorney General of the United States. He grew up right here in this area in Bergen County. And he was the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, and then became John Ashcroft's Deputy Attorney General. He came to visit me one time while I was U.S. Attorney to kind of fire up the troops. And when he was done, I said to him, "Where are you going now, Jim?" And he said, "I'm going to the New York Times editorial board." I said, "Jim, I love you, man, but you're John Ashcroft's Deputy Attorney General. You're going to the New York Times editorial board? They're going to kill you." And he said to me, "Chris, my philosophy is pretty simple. It's harder to hate up close. It's harder to hate up close." Now, this was one of the smartest things anybody ever said to me. And it's a lesson that I learn and try to use every day. And when I became governor, my decision was I wanted to meet every time the legislature was in session with Steve Sweeney and Sheila Oliver, because it's harder to hate up close. When we're all standing off in our separate corners and giving our partisan speeches, it's easy to be hateful. It's easy to be non-productive. It's easy to be obstructionist. But when you're sitting at a table in the governor's conference room a couple of times a week, talking to each other about business and your weekend, talking about your family and your friends, establishing a relationship with someone, that doesn't mean we'll agree on everything. In fact, we disagree on a lot, and we'll do so loudly and publicly. We should never stop doing that. But I believe that there is often a very wide boulevard between getting everything you want and compromising your principles. We should never compromise our principles. So the people sent us here for. But we have to acknowledge that in a divided government, or any government for that matter, we're never going to get everything we want. There is a gulf between that, a boulevard. Sometimes it's wider, sometimes it's narrower, but it is always there. The only way to convince Republicans and Democrats to walk down that boulevard is to establish relationships of trust. Not of unanimity, but of trust. And so that's what allowed us to work as Republicans and Democrats together to pass nationally significant pension and benefit reform that will save the taxpayers $132 billion over the next 30 years. You don't do that against the power of the special interest in Trenton if you don't trust each other. And so Washington, D.C. is missing this because we have a president, in my opinion, who has no interest in establishing relationships with members of Congress, and a Congress that's still at war with each other. That they care more about what the next soundbite is going to be on the news than about actually getting something done to make our country a better place. Everybody's in trouble. Let me put a very fine point on this, because in the end, those meetings that I talked about with Steve Sweeney and Sheila Oliver, with Tom Kean and Alex DeCroce, those meetings happen in the governor's office because they're the only place they can happen. Because in New Jersey, there's only one person who's elected by all the people, and that's the governor. And it's my obligation to reach across the partisan divide, to provide the table for the conversations, and to continue to work at it until we get there. My obligation. In the same way, it is the obligation of the President of the United States to do that in Washington, and in my opinion, he has failed that test and failed to do it. Think about this. Look at this. You may remember famously this past summer when John Boehner and the President played golf together. Right? Frighteningly saw them all in their shorts and acted like they actually knew how to play the game. Involved in there. Here's the frightening part of that. Even more frightening, if you can imagine, than the shorts. It was the first time in nearly 2 years that Barack Obama had been alone with John Boehner. This is a man who's been the Republican leader of the House of Representatives since he became president. In the first 2 years, he was in the minority, and the president treated him with such disdain, so not even meet with him. Not even believe that his opinions were significant enough or his position important enough to merit his time. Be very careful. The person who's insignificant may wind up with a gavel in his hand. Now all of a sudden he is significant. And they have to try to start now, in the throes of an election campaign, to establish a relationship of trust. It's not going to happen. And your logic and your common sense tells you it won't happen. We are not allowing that to happen in New Jersey. From minute one, we establish relationships with the legislature that sends a clear message from the governor's office. You're important. You're an important part of the governing process. You're an indispensable part of the governing process. We want to work with you. We'll disagree sometimes, but let's establish a relationship of mutual trust and mutual respect so that we can do what the people sent us here to do, which is to fix our broken state and return some hope and optimism to their futures. So that's what we're doing. And it is setting a national model. You think about it. When I became governor, most of what New Jersey was known for was political corruption, things like the Sopranos. No offense here in Bergen County, the Real Housewives of New Jersey. God forbid, the Jersey Shore. Now, when we mention the Jersey Shore, I want to make sure that you all understand this. As proud New Jerseyans, those kids, they're from New York. New York. Staten Island and Poughkeepsie, and they parachute these people onto the Seaside Heights boardwalk and try to make you think that's what New Jersey is. We know it isn't. And I told Governor Cuomo any number of times he can have them back. Unfortunately for me, Andrew is a smart guy. He's not giving them easy pass to come back through the tunnel. But now what's New Jersey known for? New Jersey is much more now on the national evening news than we are on late night with David Letterman. We spend more time being discussed on the Sunday news talk shows than we do spending time with Stephen Colbert. We spend more time having people say that in New Jersey, we are setting the example for making tough decisions, for standing by our principles, and for leading by example than anything that they put on entertainment TV. That doesn't come easy. And it will not be sustained without effort. And it won't be expanded without faith. I don't ask of this group anything more than what I promise I'll give to you every day, which is the best I have. And my faith and commitment to the state where I was born and raised. There is no reason why this comeback can't continue and expand. There is no reason why New Jersey cannot return the prominence that we had in the 80s and the 90s. We just had a lost decade. That lost decade happened because of bad policies and failed leadership. It can be restored through good policies and effective leadership, not just by me, but by all of you too. So now the challenge is even clearer to all of us than it may have been before, but so is the reward. In 2009, in the depths of the recession and in the depths of New Jersey's dark hour, many thought that we could not dig out from the hole. We now know we've done it. So now it's time to seize the moment, to seize the day, not just for us, but for our children and grandchildren. Because I am sure that you, like me, would like to see your children raise their children right here. To have your children send their children to great New Jersey schools. To have your children have their children play on the ball fields of New Jersey. To have your children have their children be close, real close, to their grandparents. That's what we want in New Jersey. And so, I come to all of you today to say two things in closing. First, thank you. Thank you for hanging in there with us during the tough times. Thanks for continuing to believe in this state. Thank you for not getting up and abandoning us during the really tough times. Thank you for the hard work that you do every day. And second, to tell you that I am completely committed to finishing the job we've started, to making New Jersey once again a shining example for the entire nation, and for all of you to be able to proudly say, anywhere in America or around the globe, I'm from New Jersey. Thank you all very much.